Hey everyone, and welcome back. If you're trying to keep tabs on AI, especially large language models, things move fast.
Incredibly fast.
So today, we're going to dive into something pretty key, fine-tuning these models using feedback. And this feedback, interestingly, it can come from people or even other AIs.
That's right. We're talking about reinforcement learning from feedback, RLHF, you'll hear it called. Our plan is to, get a handle on the latest developments. Some really cool stuff happening.
Cool stuff, but also maybe some questions cropping up.
Exactly. There are new frameworks, but also some researchers asking, okay, how well does this actually work? We're going to look at both sides, drawing on some recent papers.
All right, sounds good. So RLHF, let's start there. Can you kind of break down the core concept for us?
Sure. Think of it like training a dog, almost. You reward the good behavior, discourage the bad. With the language model, if it gives a response that's helpful, accurate, safe,
Mm,
it gets a kind of internal point.
the virtual treat.
A virtual treat, yeah. And if it outputs something problematic, biased, incorrect, maybe unsafe, it gets, well, nudged away from that. It's learning through trial and error, guided by these rewards.
Okay, guiding it towards what we want. Makes sense. So what's new? You mentioned recent advancements.
Yeah, definitely. So back in January 2025, CDRLHF popped up. That's curiosity-driven RLHF.
Curiosity-driven. What's the angle there?
Well, it's tackling this tricky thing called the diversity alignment trade-off. We want the AI to follow instructions, that's alignment, but we don't want it to become, like, super boring and predictable.
Right, you lose the creativity.
Exactly. If it just learns to give simple answers that get easy rewards, it might not be good at, complex problem solving later.
Mm.
CDRLHF tries to find that sweet spot, be helpful, and still generate diverse, interesting outputs.
Okay, balancing act.
Yeah.
Get it. What else was happening around then?
Also, January 2025, Prime emerged. It's an open source framework, which is always good to see.
Open source? Nice.
Yeah.
What's Prime's
Yeah.
focus?
Prime is about online reinforcement learning using something called process rewards. So instead of just looking at the final answer and saying good or bad,
It looks at the steps.
precisely, it rewards the reasoning process the model uses to get to the answer. This is thought to be really important for improving, well, actual reasoning skills, not just spitting out facts. Rewarding the how, not just the what.
That's a neat idea. Rewarding the thinking. And I think there was also work on the judges themselves, the reward models.
Yes, spot on. A bit earlier, January 2024, research came out from ETH Zurich, Google, and Max Planck. They were digging into how to make the reward models better.
Explain that a bit. The reward model is like the AI's internal compass for what's good.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. If that internal compass is more accurate, more nuanced, then the whole RLHF feedback loop just works much better. The fine-tuning becomes way more effective. They found specific strategies to basically sharpen that compass.
Okay, so better feedback mechanisms, tools, rewarding process. Sounds like solid progress. But you mentioned a counterpoint.
Right. So fast forward to March 2024. We see research from folks at Stanford and the Toyota Research Institute, and they're essentially pumping the brakes a little.
Pumping the brakes how?
Uh,
Saying RLHF is flawed.
Not necessarily flawed, but urging caution. They're asking us to critically evaluate if RLHF consistently delivers the value we assume it does across the board. Is it always the best approach? Does it have hidden downsides or limitations or maybe overlooking?
So it's less about it's broken and more about let's really test the assumptions.
Exactly. They're raising important questions about its general effectiveness and reliability. It adds a layer of healthy skepticism, I think.
Okay, so weaving this together, we've got active development, new tools like CDRLHF and Prime, trying to solve specific problems, efforts to improve the core feedback, but also this parallel track questioning the fundamental value proposition of RLHF itself.
Precisely. It's not a settled field. You've got innovation pushing forward, and you've got critical analysis asking, wait, are we sure this is the right path or the only path? It shows the field is dynamic, still figuring things out.
Right, so wrapping this deep dive up, RLHF is clearly a hot area, lots of work going into refining it, making it more sophisticated.
Definitely. Addressing diversity, reasoning, the quality of feedback.
But at the same time, there's this really vital, critical conversation happening about its overall impact and effectiveness. It's not just accepted dogma.
Yeah, it's being constantly tested and questioned, which is probably how science should work, right?
Absolutely. So maybe the final thought for everyone listening is this. When you hear about breakthroughs in fine-tuning using feedback, keeping both these sides in mind seems crucial. What factors would you weigh? How do you balance the excitement of new techniques with that essential critical evaluation of whether they truly deliver long-term value?
Good question. It's about looking past the hikes sometimes.
Definitely something to chew on. Thanks for breaking that all down.
My pleasure. Fascinating stuff.